Welcome to KSOK Uncensored. Today's guest is Kaelan from GETTR. If you are not on GETTR, you need to get on GETTR because it's a great app for those of us who cherish free speech. Come on in, Kaelan. Hello and
How's it
welcome.
going?
Going pretty well. How are you
Thank you
today?
for having me. We are living the
Oh my
dream. Look,
gosh.
if you're not having the best day, you're still living somebody's dream, right? So we're out here, we're
Yeah,
living the dream. We're taking the fight to big tech, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
absolutely. We have to punch left. I love it. I want to talk about something that is important, and that is the fact that, I joined GETTR in January, but you guys are coming up on your 1 year launch. You launched on, I almost said January 4th, pardon me, July 4th, 2021, a great day to do that. And so you're coming up on your 1 year anniversary. And I hear that you have some exciting things that will be happening on the app on the 1 year anniversary. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so they call this in the biz, as you're aware, a little teaser. So on July 4th, what I can tell you is we'll be doing an entire day of live streaming programming on GETTR. So if you're on the platform, if you're not on the platform, get on and follow GETTR Live. I'm not going to share any big names with you, but rest assured, we've got big names from across the entire globe. They're all going to join us for a few minutes here or there to talk about fighting for free speech, fighting against big tech, cancel culture, all that good stuff. And there may or may not be an appearance by our CEO, Jason Miller, and he may or may not be announcing or unveiling a very important and well sought after feature on July 4th. So stay tuned for more details. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're spending that entire week celebrating 1 year of fighting big tech.
That's very exciting. And I'll tell you what, I'm very picky. I'm on so many apps right now, and I'm really trying to wean myself off of the big tech oligarchs. But I will say GETTR has a very clean appearance. I'm very picky. I want it to be easy, clean, and I do like the functionality of GETTR. So I will say that right now. And I'm working on being more active on there. So for those watching, you can find me on there, KSOK Uncensored. And but let's talk about this. So you launched about a year ago, and you are at 6 million users, approximately 6 million users.
Oh yeah, we're at a little over 6 million users. We've been up for about a year. We've done very limited marketing. This is where it truly is astounding the power of this very underserved market. There are conservatives across the world who aren't being included in this movement. In social media, they've been written off by your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams, and all they do is seek to squash this very important demographic. It's like half the world leans conservative, half of the United States leans conservative, and so I think you kind of look at what's going on with Elon Musk and Twitter. I mean, the guy he's a smart guy. He's a businessman.
Right.
He knows that this is a business decision. These people crave somewhere, an outlet to organize, to generate communities, to do things like that. And that's what we've been doing for about a year. So Nolan, you mentioned it works. It just works. We've got a very
Exactly.
unique set of
Excuse me.
very unique set of features that you can't find anywhere else. There's not a single app where you can live stream, post short form videos, like in our Vision app. You
Yes.
do your Twitter stuff and upload, up to 10 minutes of video content without fear of being censored for your political opinion. I mean, that doesn't exist
Yeah.
literally anywhere in the world.
No, seriously, it really doesn't. And the cool thing, so you mentioned vision. And for those of us, I got started on TikTok. And so for those of us who appreciate that 1 minute, feature and to get it out in front of a lot of people, or Instagram Reels, that's a comparison. For those of us who really appreciate that, but without the, really the shadow banning and the just straight up shutting down anyone that doesn't push the narrative. The vision feature. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's really cool because for me, it's like being the guy or being part of the team that um, thinks up American Idol for the first time. Like we know the next
Yeah.
big thing is here on GETTR because it's absolutely fascinating. Their entire we don't know who exists that we don't see because they've been algorithmed out of existence on TikTok or
Yep.
Instagram or whatever it may be. And so, I mean, we're really excited. So the features are very similar. And again, we're just in beta, so we're slowly tinkering and adding, some features and streamlining some processes and making sure it functions the way people want it to, because people deserve a functioning product. But it's exactly like your TikTok or your Instagram Reels. You got about 60 seconds max to record a quick video. We got plenty of music options. We got tons of stickers, augmented reality stuff, like your filters. I'm a big fan of the beautify
Amen.
filter, although it doesn't quite do enough for me. I can always use a little more beautify filter. But we've got it all. I mean, we've got it all. It's truly fascinating. The response that we've seen, tons of content creators get out there and do their thing without fear of being censored. That is huge. And this all leans into kind of the future of GETTR. Over the next few months, we'll be talking more about what we like to call GETTR Pay, and that will allow people to monetize a lot better. It'll be a lot more content creator friendly, as opposed to
Right.
like a YouTube or a Twitch or a Patreon, whatever. And it will allow more people to participate, because I think so many folks are censored on these other apps. They don't
Right.
even bother. So we don't even know what we're
Right.
missing out on, right? That's what we seek to provide.
Exactly. Yes, no, that's huge, and that is important. You will draw a lot more people over. You'll draw a lot more creator focus over when you have that monetization. Yeah, something to bring up. I mean, it's just wild, and this is even more reason for people such as myself and just people that want to be able to hear from people such as myself. Um, on YouTube, I had just come up on my 1 year. I had some strikes. My strikes expired. And right, like 2 months after my shadow ban was lifted, my strikes were gone. They went and dug up something a year and a half old, where one of my people said, one of my guests said something to the effect of the 2020 election results, yada yada. We all know that. And they went and dug something up again a year and a half ago, and then they striked me again. So now, right as everything was about to lift, they have a team that are just going in and digging in, trying to find reasons to strike you so they don't have to pay you, so they don't share your truth. And enough is enough. I'm sick of bitching about it. Now is the time to actually say, screw them. I'm going with an outfit like GETTR, where I don't even have to worry about that nonsense, and I can just focus on growing somewhere where I'm not going to deal with all the BS. So I think it's really important that people start really pivoting that mindset, and instead of trying to work around their shadow bans, or we just need to walk away. And I'll be honest, it's a slow, I can't just ditch, I can't dump everything I've worked for, but I'm slowly focusing more on platforms such as GETTR, where I don't have to worry about that. It's been 2 years of just nonsense shenanigans, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. So I really appreciate what GETTR does, really for the United States, and other folks outside the United States as well that want to hear the truth. So thank you for that. It is important, and it's a space that definitely needed. We needed something in that space to give us a voice, now more than ever. So thank you.
No, of course, and we have a ton of fun doing it. My job is to wake up every day and make sure it's a fun place to be, and everyone, creators like yourself and many others. We've got your Jack Posobics, your Charlie Kirks, your Steve Bannons. Literally everyone under the sun is over here. My job is easy as heck. I just get to watch the action unfold. But you touched on a few things that are really big. It's first off, big tech doesn't care if you're black, white, conservative, Democrat, fat, skinny. You live in the United States, you live in Brazil. They don't give a dang. They are out here trying to censor anything that goes counter to their narrative. You brought up that you've gotten some strikes. I remember, look, like the Nelk Boys got their video of Donald Trump with millions of views scrubbed after 24 hours. Or you've got your Barstool Sport. This is one of my favorite examples. The Barstool Sports Empire, they do their thing. They sell tons of bad merch and all that good stuff. But they monetize their videos as well. there was like a 5-second clip where they mentioned climate change that went counter to their narrative. They demonetized this clip. It got millions of views before they demonetized it. Absolutely
Wow.
absurd. They don't care. They
No.
genuinely don't care. And if you think that you and I are mad sitting here, that a guy in a hoodie in Silicon Valley is telling us what we can or can't say, imagine if you didn't live in the same country as that guy. I mean, we see it all
Right.
the time. Folks in places like Brazil, France, Germany, Austria. I mean, we're everywhere where there's internet because there is a need for this. They cannot help themselves. They simply can't.
It's true. It's true. And this triggers something. I've been doing a lot of boots on ground politics just recently. The Washington state is currently going through primaries. So I was at an event last night, and something came up that's very similar to what you're saying, but it's in the political world. It's like they don't even worry about there are not repercussions anymore. And this they were mainly
Mhm.
speaking about politicians that are in their current roles. They're saying they just don't even care to be reelected anymore because they don't have to work for it. And we all know why. But that's the same thing with big tech. They don't care. They're deplatforming us and they don't care, and they're not being held accountable. And they're not going to be held accountable by us until we walk away and say, screw you, we're over it, we're leaving you, and they're gonna go woke, go broke. They're going to miss out on the content that people on the right create because they make money off of us. And so it's just crazy. So we need more people to really realize they know that they're pretty much invincible right now. And the only
Well,
way to walk away is to walk away and leave. Go ahead, jump in.
what I really want to drill home to folks that watch this is that it's not even about, it's personal to them. They think so little of people like you and me and conservatives across this country. They will do all of this in broad daylight. They have not hidden it once. None of any of this, whether you're talking about big tech, whether you're talking about politicians. I mean, we saw this. This is, I think, why they really overstepped during COVID. They did not care. They think so little of you that they will strap a muzzle to your face anytime
Yep.
you leave your house, but will walk around wearing whatever the heck they want. It does not
Right.
matter. They think so little. That is their entire party platform right now. Whether, because as far as I'm concerned, big tech, the radical left, all of them, it's all the same dang thing. It's all the
Right.
same thing. All they want is to bend to their will, and they've been doing it by gaslighting the American people for far, far too long. I think we're going to
Right.
see incredible turnover over the next 4 years in Washington D.C. as a result.
I do too. I absolutely agree with you on that. And you should see, it's wild. These events I go to last night, it's a conservative event. It was to hear from local politicians. 700 people showed up. This is Southwest Washington, right across the bridge from Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
700 people showed up to hear 19 candidates talk about why they're running. That is massive. And somebody that put on the event said 2 years ago, this room would have had 50 or less people in it. Last year we had a couple hundred. Now we're at 700. And it just shows people are fed up. And it's not just the right. There's the independents, there's the moderate Democrats. People are fed up. And so I completely agree with you. We're going to see a big shift. And this is just the beginning of this awakening.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think we get asked this question a lot, right? And we always get asked, how are you not going to become, an echo chamber for conservative politics or this, that, and the other? And the answer really boils down to what you just said. There are more common threads between us than I think people realize. And when you think about it, the left really wins when you feel like you're alone, when you feel like you're the only person who thinks or feels or says the things that you think, feel, and say, and they don't want you to connect with others. But what I find fascinating, and my answer to that question is always look at there's an NBA center, Ennis Cantor Freedom now, sorry. And he's a big GETTR user. He jumped on very early, and he's, for all intents and purposes, he's pretty left leaning. He was all about vaccines and masks and all that good stuff. But where he found common ground and where he found an audience is that he feels strongly that what's happening in China violates every
Right.
human rights abuse agreement under the sun, and I think we all can agree on that. And so, like, there are things we've seen the paradigm shift so drastically since Donald Trump was elected, because under 4 years, and I was there, I've been in there in the room while we're making decisions on it like this, um, where it comes down to pragmatism and delivering a tangible result for people versus doing what's always been done. And people just totally, I don't think we've truly figured out or even seen the impact of this yet. It's shaken up politics in a way that is going to be written about in history books for years and years to come. And I think how we solve all these problems, it's not about right or left, it's about what makes your life better and what makes mine, what puts more money in my pocket, or in your pocket, what takes it away. And I think that's really important. We have to keep our eye on the ball in that sense.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that makes complete sense. That's the reason I even got started. I shared with you earlier, I'm from the Portland, Oregon area. And naturally, to be a conservative in Portland, Oregon, you feel very isolated. And that's, really the reason I even started doing this is I felt like I was going to implode. I'm married to a Portland police officer, and watching him deal with what he dealt with, especially in 2020, I thought I was going to implode. And I felt like I was the only one on this island alone that still respected law enforcement, still loved our country, etc. So I put a rant on TikTok at the time, and it went viral. And I immediately was like, wait, other people still, have their heads screwed on. I'm not the only one out here. So I felt immediately this sense of connection and this sense of I'm not alone. And I think that that's why platforms such as your own, it really gives people that, especially people that live in such a blue state city, you can feel alone very easily, and that sense of community is so incredibly important. So I love that. I love that aspect of social media. I want to pivot to Truth Social. I asked you earlier. I'm going to ask you a tough one here. I want to know, really, how does GETTR compare? What are some differences? What are some similarities? Why GETTR over Truth, if one was to decide?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me a hard question. This one's not hard at all.
All right.
No, in all honesty, no. Like I said earlier, nobody on the marketplace currently offers the set of the suite of features that we have. It just works. Quite simply, it all falls together and makes sense. We've got an incredible group of content creators that are out there live streaming daily. I mean, you can come on, and I know you guys here at REM, you guys are live streaming your programming constantly. We've got our friends over at Real America's Voice and Right Side and Newsmax, and literally everyone and their mother under the sun is over here live streaming programming on GETTR. You can't really do that anywhere else
Yeah.
on the internet, without fear of being canceled, and where with a system that just functions properly. It functions the way like a YouTube or a Twitch or I mean, I don't even know where else to even go, or even a Rumble. Like it just works. And I think that's what's the big difference here, is that we've built a lot of trust with our community. We're not going to get out there and cancel anyone, and we're just going to continue to roll out new features and innovate. I mean, no one else is doing the work we're doing with Vision, for example. No one is giving anyone the freedom to create without fear of being canceled the way we are. And so, what I'll say to kind of bookend this is, we love the truths out there. I love that Elon Musk is out there talking about buying Twitter, because really you don't take down these legacy institutions alone. And what we've seen is the more that people are talking about this and joining the fight and really speaking about what big tech and the government are trying to do to our First Amendment rights, the better it is for everyone. Elon Musk announces he's going to buy Twitter, or he's going to try to buy Twitter, or whatever's happening. And we see a 300% increase in new signups that week. It's
Interesting.
so it's people. I mean, he's just driven millions of dollars in earned media revenue towards this cause. We're all on the same team. You don't just use Facebook. You don't just use Twitter. Most people
Right.
use
True.
all the ones that they use that allow them
Right.
to create the content they want to create.
Exactly. No, I love that. That's wild because I wouldn't have thought that what's happening at Twitter with Elon Musk would impact you. But that's really that's news for me. That's really interesting. I like that. Makes complete sense though, because I mean, gosh, I'm on like 9 different platforms, and and I'm not alone in that. A lot of people do that, so that's fantastic. And then some you love one feature over the other, and some you love so I get it. I completely get that. And thank you. I'm glad that wasn't too tough of a question for you. I love your approach to that.
Easy, it's
Yeah,
nothing. Bring it.
I will say I like the layout of GETTR better. I'm very, like I said, I like it clean. I want it to be user friendly, and I do find that over truth personally. I want to talk about this is just a little tidbit. So when Joe Rogan did a shout out for GETTR and moved on over to GETTR, gosh, this is what November. It was in
This would be
21. I know
January, yeah.
that is this January? Okay, so not too long ago. Is it true that you saw 1 million users sign up following that?
Yeah, and that was probably some of the wildest. And again, I've worked on both Trump campaigns. I've done many campaigns across the country. I've worked in the White House, the Treasury Department during COVID. And I will say the day Joe Rogan jumped on GETTR might be one of the wildest days of my life, simply because my phone didn't stop ringing for about a week straight. And I'll never
Fantastic.
forget, I was staying with my family in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was supposed to drive cross country with my hound dog back home to Arlington, Virginia. Couldn't even do it. Couldn't even make it out of bed because my phone wouldn't stop ringing. And so I think again, it just really shows people there is a vastly underserved market of folks who value free speech, and we were more than happy to have Joe jump on.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, all right. It does show the power of somebody who, they've tried to cancel him. Right? And Spotify was like, we're not going to drop this guy. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to.
Oh,
So,
no, yeah.
so yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just so it shows that, if people really just stand their ground, you can be uncancelable if you don't cowtail. So I love that. Also, wanted to talk about going back to the origin of GETTR. So, was it Jason Miller is the founder, correct? And he's a former
Yeah, he's
Trump aide. So that's
yeah, and I've
excellent.
been
So I'm
working
assuming
with
you
these.
worked together in the beginning.
Oh man, we've been working together for about 10 years, and my dad has a twin brother, and he says Jason and I talk to each other the way he talks to his twin brother, the way we push each other around and everything like that. But he's one of my best friends, and we've been working together for the better part of a decade on countless campaigns. Yeah, so last July, he gave me a ring and said, "Hey, I got this really cool project. Remember how all our friends were being canceled around January of last year?" And I said, "I don't know that I could ever forget it." He said, let's take the fight to them." So it's been a wild ride.
Oh, I can imagine. Absolutely. Well, that's fun. I like that. He's pretty much like your twin, your non-binary twin. Fantastic. So let's talk about you a little bit because I think it's interesting. So you said you worked on both Trump campaigns, and you've been in this industry or in just speaking out, I guess, and politics for 10 years now. Or where'd you get your start?
Yeah, something around 10 years. I forget. I have a birthday tomorrow, so I'm trying not to think about how long I've been doing X, Y, or Z for the next 48 hours until I can forget. But no, I mean, I got started just knocking doors and turning out the vote for rent, essentially for a campaign out in Savannah, Georgia. Georgia won. It's the most beautiful district in the entire country, and I just from there it just kept snowballing. It's really funny. I was talking to someone the other day. It's like history has followed, myself and Jason and all the people that are involved here at GETTR almost our entire careers. I worked out in Georgia. I went out to Iowa, which is like the holy grail for political operatives in an election cycle. And then, I teamed up with Jason and we won races in Kentucky, the governorship there. And we were actually, this is a very funny story. We were doing Ted Cruz for president, until he dropped out. And so he dropped out, and we had written this blistering ad because I'm an ad maker by trade. We wrote this
Okay.
blistering ad, and Jason gets this call from New York. He picks it up, and basically it turns out the president said, "Who wrote this?" And someone was like, "Well, Jason Kaelan of this firm did it." He said, "They work for me now. Go call them up. We want them on our team." And so we moved up to New York for a few months. We won that election in 2016 and shocked the world, and the rest is history. It's been absolutely incredible.
That is so exciting. So, okay, so what's interesting is I'm currently working for Senator Don Benton, who was on he was under Trump, he was oh gosh, he was in charge of if we ever went to war and we needed to draft whatever the draft department is, I should know this. But he was in charge of that. So he's just come out of working, in the Trump administration for 4 years. Now he's running for county council because he just can't stop, and I'm working for him. And so what's really funny is when he's always 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of all the other candidates. So for instance,
Mm-hmm.
last night at the event, I thought he left, and I was like, oh, where's Don? All right. I go outside and he's like, I've been out here for 15 minutes talking to people while all other 18 candidates are inside fighting for their time. I've been out front as they leave talking to them, giving them a yard sign. And I was like, and that's
That's
why Trump called you and asked you to work for him, because you work your tail off and you're always so many steps ahead of the pack. So when he asks me to do something that might sound outlandish, like stand out in the sun and hold a sign while my makeup's melting off my face, I think I got this. It's okay. This is what Trump would want too. And so it's wild because he only wants the best, and that's a huge compliment to you that call came through like that, because I see that in, like I said, the senator I'm working for right now. I mean, he just runs circles around the other candidates as far as strategy. So that's an incredible accomplishment for you, to have been so highly regarded by him.
we do what we do. I mean, it just goes to show you pour your heart and soul into something, no matter what. Not for this to be the career advice hour for any youngins watching, but if you genuinely pour your heart and soul into something, it tends to reward you back in pretty interesting ways. And I tell you what, I got my start in politics because I came up here. It's just what I was good at. I was in DC, and I was interning for like a couple bucks a month, and I was going to run out of money. And I'll never forget going to bed. The next morning I was going to have to pack up all my stuff, move home, and sell shoes at Dick's Sporting Goods in my hometown. And
Oof.
I cried myself to sleep. I prayed like I've never prayed for anything before in my life. And the next day I woke up, and I had a job offer in Georgia, and I just got up and did it. So you've got to have
Wow.
faith. There's always a
Yes.
all of this. And if you pour your heart and soul into something bigger than yourself, it always rewards you. Whether it's immediate or not is to be determined, but it always
Right.
comes back around.
Right. No, I love that advice because I feel the exact same way. I'm coming out of a 20-year banking leadership career, and
Oh my
I
God.
was just doing this as a hobby, and then things just happened where doors just opened for me. I was praying a lot, like, do I stay in banking or do I take this chance and forego this r nice salary, but I don't have a fire in my belly for it anymore, right? My fire's over here, but there's risk over here. But things just started landing in my lap, as because I have been working for 2 years doing the creating and putting myself out there for free, right? And so things just
Yeah.
started happening, and I'm like, that's my answer. That's my answer right there. So I completely agree with you. I do think that if people have faith and they're passionate about something, it's worth the risk. And I'm not historically a risk taker. But I love your story because I am in the same position right now where I'm pivoting, and it took risk, and it's paying off. So that's fantastic. Okay, we're coming up at time here. I want to thank you. Where can people find? I don't know. I'm assuming you have your own handle on there. Maybe not. Maybe you're a behind the scenes guy. But where can people find you?
So you can find me at Kaelan, Kaelan on GETTR, But most importantly, guys, make sure you're tuning in July 4th at GETTR
Yeah.
Live. We're going to do some incredible program. I'm telling you, I cannot hype it up enough. Big, big names are all going to come and speak with the chat, talk about cancel culture. It's going to be fun.
I love that. Okay, awesome. And for everyone that is watching, if you do not have a GETTR, if you don't have a login created, if you don't have a profile created, get it done, and connect with me and all these other people that are on the platform who value free speech. So again, thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate you taking time to come on KSOK Uncensored, and I look forward to connecting in the future.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. Remember, make sure you're following these folks. If you're watching this, make sure you're following these guys everywhere because they're doing incredible work. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
having me.
thank you. Thank you very much. You take care.
Thanks. You too. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you guys for tuning in. Another great guest. I love to have people on here that are making such a difference in our world, country. It's not even just country, you guys. This is the world that is impacted by this in such a positive way. So please take the time and go get on GETTR and connect with me and so many others there. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next Thursday on KSOK Uncensored. Oh.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
My name is Joey Lynn Massaros. I'm a stay-at-home mom in New Braunfels, Texas. My husband Robert is a plumber. Just like many Americans, we enjoy exercising our constitutional rights, especially our First Amendment right to exercise free speech. You might remember in 2020 during early election when the Biden-Harris campaign bus drove through New Braunfels, Texas. There was a viral video of a Trump train driving alongside of them, and we were proud to show our support for President Trump. 8 months later, we found out that we were getting sued in federal court under the Ku Klux Klan law of 1871. Triggered Democrat politicians, Biden-Harris campaign staff, and members of the White House cabinet were on the bus and are claiming they're traumatized from our presence next to them and suing us for emotional compensation. They claim we premeditated assault with a plan to ambush the bus and run it off the road, but that never happened. These malicious and frivolous lies are costing our family hundreds of thousands of dollars in the federal court system. We need your help to fight back to defend free speech, not just for our family, but for all Americans. We believe God has called us to this opportunity as a chance to stand up and defend free speech for all Americans, whether we agree or not. So rather than believe that we're being picked on by these Democrats that are suing us in federal court, we see this as a great opportunity to stand up and defend free speech. But we need your help. It takes a lot of money to do this. We have already cashed out our 401k, our savings account, and our child's future fund, just so that we can defend our family's name. We want to be able to hold the left accountable for weaponizing the law system against average Americans, just like you. They think they picked on us, but they don't realize that we believe God chose us as an opportunity to stand up and fight for what's right. You can join our fight to defend free speech at freespeechdefender.com.
A few years ago, my dad and my brother were teasing me about how little I knew about the United States. They asked me, is the United States a democracy or a republic? Obvio, it's a democracy. As they laughed at me, I thought, wait a minute, do I really know the difference? As embarrassing as that was, it drove me to dive deep into getting to know the foundations of the United States. It drove me to study and research the original intent of the Constitution, to learn an unfiltered version of U.S. history, to understand how politics and government operate, and to discover the dangers of socialism. Burying myself into the fundamentals of this nation reminded me of softball practices with my dad. We would train in the rain at night in 100% summer humidity. And anytime my game was off, he would take me right back to the fundamentals. If I lost focus, he'd dump water over my head and say, "Break time is over." I've come across many Americans like me who are off their game. They question what they were taught in school about history. With all I learned, I wanted to create a digestible resource for the average American to learn or even spruce up their knowledge about the very country we live in. The Rookie American Guidebook and podcast will help Americans get back to the fundamentals of true U.S. history, government, and politics. You'll also learn how to make informed decisions about your communities, representatives, and your nation. Break time's over.
Well, hey there. Welcome to the Elsa Kurt Show. I'm your host, Elsa Kurt, and today I have with me Ralph Rebant. He is running for governor of Michigan right after this. Well, hello there, sir. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am doing exceptionally well today. Thank you for asking.
Outstanding. So I'm pretty excited to talk to you because when I looked over my notes, I learned, I'm jumping right into it. I hope you don't mind, but I discovered that you are a chaplain for several police departments and police organizations, which is of course near and dear to my heart as a police spouse. So can we jump right in and you tell me a little bit about that, how that came to be?
Sure. When we moved to Michigan, back to Michigan after graduate school to start our church, I wanted to get involved in the community. And so we did. And I visited with the police department. And the chief, Bill Dwyer, asked me if I was interested in becoming a chaplain. And I said, I'm not sure what that involves, but I'd be happy to. And he said, well, we can send you to some training classes and get you certified and all that. And I said, I'm in. And so that was about 32 years ago. And since then, I've become chaplain not only for our local community here in Farmington Hills, but Beverly Hills, not California, but Beverly Hills, and then the Michigan Chiefs of Police, and then the Southeastern Michigan Chiefs of Police, and the Southeastern Chiefs, which is the largest organization, has endorsed me as their candidate for governor.
That is fantastic. So just so people know, what exactly does a chaplain do with and for police officers, for first responders? What's your role in their community?
Well, we ride with them frequently, and the goal is to just make friends so that when there's a need that they have, whether it's personal or family, they call me. And that's happened over the years. And I remember the very first time an officer came walking up my driveway, after probably 2 or 3 years, I finally had earned their respect. And this one gentleman came up the drive, and he had some needs that he wanted me to help him with. And so it was really, really encouraging. But, you know, I've done everything from marriages for police officers who don't have a church, to counseling them and their children, to helping raise money for officers who've fallen through the cracks financially. And of course, I'm the chaplain for the Michigan Chiefs of Police, which means in my role as a chaplain here in Farmington Hills and elsewhere, I have helped other organizations, other police departments around Michigan get chaplains to be there for the officers when they need help.
That's wonderful. And a lot of people don't know this because it's not part of their world. It's very hard for law enforcement officers, first responders to give their trust and confide in someone who's not part of their their world, really. So that you were able to come in and do that is actually really a testament to you yourself, and being able to build that level of trust with them. So that's actually pretty special. So people who are outside of this, maybe don't realize that, but I do. So thank you for that. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Elsa. Relationships were not only built in the car, but on the basketball court with these guys. We've had a lot of fun over the years, decades on basketball courts, whether they come and play for our church or whether I would just go for the pickup games with the guys at 11 o'clock at night. It's been a really good run, and I just love law enforcement.
Thank you so much. That's so wonderful to hear, and especially in times like these when we need that love and support so much. Our first responders, as you well know, are regularly getting beat up, media and mainstream media, and it's been rough. It's been very rough. So it's so heartwarming to know that there are people like you out there that are out there hands-on, really trying to help and give them the support that they need, because it's so needed during these times. I have to ask you the obvious question: how do we go from being a pastor and a chaplain to politics? Tell me a little bit about your run for governor.
Well, back in March of 2020, when everything shut down and Governor Whitmer was really locking us all down, there were a lot of officers and children and people in our church and outside of our church that were asking me, are we all going to die of COVID? And, the children of officers were asking questions like, I'm not getting out of the house. I don't have any friends anymore. And just so many horrible effects mentally that her draconian, I hate to use that word, but it's very true, her draconian lockdowns forced upon young people. And there were times, Elsa, when I would wake up at 2:30 in the morning and I would be concerned about these people that I was counseling, and a lot of them were kids. And as I was counseling them, I would wake up, as I said, at 2:30 and just pray for them. And I thought to myself, somebody with sanity's got to jump into this whole situation. And it was at that point that I began to think about running for governor.
That is fantastic. And that's exactly what we need people to do. I was just having a conversation with another guest about, the need for individuals to step up and not wait for others to take these leadership roles when we see how badly things are going, and the destruction that's being caused by bad leadership that is so detrimental to our communities. And we need exactly what you're doing, people who are just, kind of like at regular citizens to say, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. I'm going to do something about it. And I think that alone sends a really powerful message to anyone watching or listening to what's going on in the world right now. To see and hear people like you that are standing up and saying, that's enough. I am going to do something about it. I'm going to do something in my part of the world. And that's really commendable. So it's got to be quite the undertaking. Has it been so far what you expected it to be? Because, politics, it's ugly.
You're right. I never realized how deep the swamp is, as Trump would talk about. And it's outrageous, even here in Michigan, even within our own party. People want to pretend that there's not division, but there really is. And it's really sad. I don't know how else to describe it, but I understand that, there's establishment, there's rhinos, there are grassroots people. And I would consider myself a grassroots person. And, Elsa, I mentioned, and I've been a pastor for 35 years, and I've been counseling husbands and wives who have really been at odds with one another, basically ready to divorce and kill each other. And we've been able to bring people together. And I look at my background in that whole area, saying to myself, out of the people that are left, there's not anybody that has the counseling experience that I have to really bring unity, not only to families, not only to our party, but also to the whole state. And again, it's one of those things, as I look back, I would have never thought about running for governor. But when I look back at how, what I would say God has and trained me to do what I'm doing, I really don't think, I want this to sound humble, I really don't think there's another person that could do what I could do for the state.
Yeah, I understand that, and as I listen to you, I can really see that. And I have to say, kind of being a little cheeky here when I say this, if you can come and bring our crazy little dysfunctional law enforcement family, which is so wonderful, but it is what it is. In some regards, if you can bring that peace and calm and meeting in a place of middle ground, I guess is what I'm looking for law enforcement. You can do it for your state and maybe down the road for the whole country. Who knows? So yeah, that's quite an undertaking, but it sounds like it's one that you are ready to tackle for sure.
Yes. And on that note, I've had opportunity over my 30-some years of being a police chaplain to really mediate between officers on the street and administration. And it's turned out really well. I've gone to bat for officers that I knew who were being unfairly misrepresented, by their superiors, and go all the way up to the chief, because I have a hearing. If you look at the flow chart, it's the chief. And then as a chaplain, I'm right under him. He's the one I address and talk to. So I always had that open door to the chief's office. And every chief that we've had here in Farmington Hills or Beverly Hills has been very receptive. Even chiefs outside of our department, I've gone to bat for officers that I knew on the streets that needed some representation, and it went really well for them.
That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about your platform, what you're running on, what your platform is, really.
Yeah. Our vision is to make Michigan a lighthouse to the nation. And we want to do that in several ways. We want to change the culture of Michigan. We've spent $22 trillion nationwide over the last 60 years on social programs, and nothing's changed. I mean, here in Michigan, we have more incarcerations, we have more suicides, we have more mental illness, more broken families. And I've been telling people that money hasn't fixed that. Education hasn't fixed that. We've tried everything under the sun, but as a pastor, I've seen God change people's lives. I've seen him take suicidal people and make them productive and actually enjoy their lives. And, I've counseled over 25 people who've been suicidal, and praise God, not one of them has taken their life. And so I've seen addicts get off drugs, off alcohol, families restored. And so my message is I want to see the culture of Michigan change, and in so doing, make Michigan a lighthouse to the nation. But basically, without getting into the details, unless you want to dig a little deeper, I have time to do that. Our platform is 4 words, 4 values, 4 strategies, and 4 solutions. And so the 4 words that I'm running on are our national motto: "In God we trust." Our 4 values are truth, respect, dignity, and love. Our 4 strategies and 4 solutions break that down even more, and they're just basically, if we could call it a sieve, that I would filter things through as I'm making decisions. And everybody's loving that, because there are things like, I'll give you an example. We have what's called Operation Roundtable. And I'm sure this happens in every state, but it recently happened last year in Michigan, where the legislature passes this so-called insurance reform bill. And it's passed at 11:45 at night. The governor signs it at 12:15 a.m. Everybody wakes up the next morning and says, who on earth passed that? What were they thinking? And so in my office, I'm going to have a literal roundtable, and there will be people sitting at that table. And my phrase that I've been using everywhere is the people that the decision affects the most should have the largest say. And so I'm going to have average citizens sit at that table, because oftentimes we send someone to Lansing or the state capitol and they end up not representing the citizens anymore. And I want the citizens of Michigan to know that we have an avenue for them to get to my office and to my thinking, not simply with the roundtable, but with when a bill comes from the legislature, I will also have opportunity for people on the net. So, there's some creative things that people all around the state are just loving.
Absolutely. I'm loving hearing it. And you know, we spoke off air about, you know, once you're governor, that I might want to move there with my family. And boy, you really are persuading me with everything you're saying here. And, you know, and a large part of that is the thing that we've been so lacking and really begging for and demanding and not getting, which is transparency. And you're taking transparency and really taking it to the next level, it sounds like. So not only are you, you know, putting a glass window so they can see through, you're actually inviting them in, your constituents and citizens in to be involved and take part. And I think that's going to speak well to a lot of people.
Mm. Yeah. One other quick, go ahead.
Sure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, does your, you know, within your party, within your comrades, are they for or against what you're saying? I know that might be putting on the spot a little bit, but are there people in your party, in your lane there, that are kind of like, whoa, don't do that? Or is everyone kind of on board?
Well, I will say that there are other governor candidates that are so on board, they've taken my idea and given it a new name.
Of course they do.
But the legislature, nobody's really challenged me on that, because I think many of them feel that that's what's happened. And there are some good legislators out there that feel like they're trying to be the voice for their constituency, but others aren't. And so they're, you know, stonewalled in what they can do. So I really think that everybody's looking at this Operation Roundtable as a fresh approach to not only giving the citizens a hearing in my office, but also as a check and balance against the legislature. So, but I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about it yet.
That's good. That's good. Very good. We'd know who to get rid of if that were the case, because you're offering something here that is only beneficial. So if somebody's against that, we kind of know what lane to put them in, don't we?
Yeah, I don't think Governor Whitmer would ever think of having a roundtable in her office.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you based on what I know. And I'll be honest with you, Ralph, I am not a big political follower, you know, not in the smaller sense of individual states and cities and towns and all of those things. You know, I'm like the big picture girl. So this is such a great education for me, really, to listen to what you're saying and hearing what's going on. So I appreciate that so much, really. Now I want to kind of change gears just a tiny bit, but still in the same lane here. You're a family man, and I love your story. I love you married your high school sweetheart. You have 4 kids, and did I read that you have 16 grandchildren?
We have 17 now. We had the 17th born on Saturday, 3 days ago.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible. You know, and that I think is really important and speaks to so many people too. You're a family man. You understand these values that I think this country is craving so much. With all of the insanity and the depravity and the absolute nonsense that is going on now and being encouraged and promoted by the radical left, the rest of us are sitting here going, where is normalcy? Where is tradition? Where are our traditional values? Where's God in all of this? And it sounds like you are looking to bring that back to your state, which I think is wonderful.
I am. You know, our 4 words, "In God We Trust," are, you know, what I've lived my whole life on, and it's our national motto. And it's interesting because I've been challenged by some on the left who have said, well, how does that work? You know, and I just simply say to at least citizens in Michigan, do you know what the preamble to the Michigan Constitution says? And no one knows. So I quote for them, it says, "We the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure those blessings undiminished to us and to our children, ordain and establish this Constitution." And so right off the bat, our own Constitution acknowledges God and his existence in society and the value of having him in society. And then I don't have to quote it all for you, but Article 8, Section 1 says, "Religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary for good government and the happiness of people, schools and the means of education shall forever be established. So that's our nation's history. And I keep telling people that if we don't get God right in this next election, nothing's going to matter. Because as you mentioned, Elsa, we are watching, people going off the cliff exponentially. And, with the Biden administration, with Whitmer, her lockdowns and her lack of respect for parents, despite what she says, all of those things really, as you say, are really anyone in Michigan. And I've talked to people in Wayne County, Democrats, African Americans, as well as people all the way up to Marquette in the Upper Peninsula, and everybody's agreeing that we need to bring God back into culture.
What would you say is the biggest issue facing Michigan? Of course, we could go as big as the country, but we'll keep it in Michigan. What would you think the biggest problem Michigan is facing right now?
What I'm hearing from everybody on the street is freedom and liberty. Everybody feels like our First Amendment rights are just being blown away, under attack, destroyed, and ignored. And it doesn't matter if it's parental rights and liberties in a school board meeting. It doesn't matter if it's a forced COVID shot. It doesn't matter if it's mass or unmasked, or even religious liberties and freedoms. We are seeing right now in Michigan that that's a huge concern. Obviously, the next thing, and probably less than half a step behind it, is the economy. The price of gas, inflation, it's affecting everything. I mean, house prices and interest rates are like around 6.5%. And, I remember in the 80s, my first house I bought, it was 13.5%. And for even 6% sounds good. But when it was down like 1%, and it's up to 6 now, it's going to make the American dream of owning a home much more difficult for people to attain.
Yeah, and at the rate things are going, of course, it looks like it's going to get so much worse before it gets better. And that is, your average American. I mean, you're talking about now you're getting down to the brass tacks of we need to be able to put food on our tables, gas in our cars to get to work. And, people are really looking at their survival right now as a real threat to their existence, everything that's happening right now. And, and again, I say it again, not big in, my huge understanding of politics and the machine of that. But, I understand the human side of that, which is we need people in leadership positions that are truly looking out for us and doing the right things for us and not for them and not for their pockets. Because that seems to be the case over and over again. Yes. And I won't even just say it's just one side, that is the political arena in general. And we need grassroots. Yeah, we need grassroots people like yourself who understand what regular average citizens are going through and dealing with and ready to tackle those problems. It's overwhelming, I would think.
It is. And it's interesting because when I first started thinking back in March, as I mentioned, counseling those young people and the adults and people thinking their lives were over and everybody's going to die of COVID, I began to think about running for governor. And I had no idea what that meant. I've been in public life on a bunch of different committees and commissions in Farmington Hills and with the state police and the chiefs of police. I've been involved in that arena, but I had no idea what it was like to run for governor. So I called a couple campaign managers. And Elsa, I'm just going to ask you this, not to put you on the spot, but what do you think their first question was to me?
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine what their first. I'm sure it's going to be something crazy.
Their first question was, how much of your own money are you going to put into this campaign?
I should have been able to guess that.
Yeah, I said, I have no idea. How much do people normally put in? And two people that I talked to before I found the campaign manager who actually helped us launch, they said, well, in a statewide race, you're probably going to have to put in $10 million of your own money. And I said, are you kidding me? How on earth does an average person get to represent average people if they have to come up with $10 million? I said, there's no way. And they said, well, we won't represent you unless you have $10 million. What they're saying is we want our money first. We want to know that we're going to get paid for the next year. And I was blown away by that. And That's a typical question that people ask. Well, how much money do you have? And so, I tell people, and I don't say this out of pride, I say this just out of reality. If you want somebody who's going to represent you as a governor, look at how much money of their own money they're putting in. And by what I mean by that is, as a pastor, I've put in about $80,000 in my retirement to do this. And I don't have that kind of money, but I'm so committed to protecting our children and their future. Our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. So I don't want to sit in my rocking chair, as Ronald Reagan said one day, and simply say, that's the America that was when people lived free. I'm going to at least put up a fight. And if it costs me my entire retirement, which is looking like it, I'm willing to risk that because I don't want my grandkids to grow up in the America that we're seeing right now.
Ralph, I'm blown away by that. I can't even imagine that that's the case. And you said it exactly. You're so right. How does the average American who, wants to get involved in the way that you are, how do they do this, without those kind of finances? And what a huge testament to you and your commitment to your state, that you are truly putting up what you have to be able to represent them. And I think that speaks volumes about you and your intentions. That's amazing. Tell me about your family, how they reacted to the news when you said, hey, guess what? I'm going to run for governor. What do you guys think? What was the reaction to that?
They were all behind it. It was funny how it unfolded. When I first started thinking about it, and as I mentioned, I was waking up at 2:30 in the morning. I talked to my wife about it, and she said, well, why, let's just pray about it. This is a huge step. I had been pastoring the same church for 35 years. I've been in this community for 35 years, been a chaplain for 32 here in Farmington Hills. And so to make that step was huge. So we prayed for it as a couple. And then the Lord opened some doors, and that kind of showed that that's the direction we should go. So then we asked our 4 grown children to pray about it, and with their children. And our youngest grandchild, as I said, was born 3 days ago, and our oldest is 17. So our families just rallied around us, and we all just decided, yes, Dad, this is what you need to do. And so then we opened it up to our church leadership, and they were 100% behind it. And then when I announced to the church that I was going to run for governor, they actually stood up and clapped on Sunday after church. They stood up and clapped, and then they sat down and cried. They knew I'd be leaving.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. I cry very easily.
Everybody was 100% supportive of it. Even the mayor in Farmington Hills.
Wow. Yeah, all of those, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say all the chiefs of police, the mayor of Farmington Hills, chiefs of police everyone that I know in Michigan has said, Ralph, we're behind you. You need to do this. And it was really a blessing and encouragement to know that I had their support in doing that.
That's incredible and so heartwarming. And yeah, I can imagine easily how it must have just been like all signs pointing you in the direction, just one after another. And I applaud you on this journey. And I will be watching the non-political woman is going to be watching this very intently. I'm invested now for my potential future home, my future state, maybe.
There you go. I love it. Well, I appreciate that also. Yeah, things are going really well. The message is resonating all over the state, and we're just we're humbled to be a part of the program and the process. And I've had 2 Supreme Court justices in Michigan, one a liberal Democrat and the other one a conservative Republican, tell me that I have to stick with the message of bringing Judeo-Christian principles back to our culture, because if we don't, we're going to lose our state and we're going to lose our nation. And so that message is not only resonating at the top where judges are seeing the deterioration of law and order, but it's resonating even in low-income zip codes. It's resonating everywhere. And so as we get out more, as our name is spread around the state, as I'm on the debate stage, people are picking it up and they're really running with it too.
Outstanding. Last thing, tell everyone where they can find you, how they can help, how they can get involved. Where can they find you?
All right. Well, my website is ralphrebantforgovernor.com. There, you can look at a lot of things. I have a lot of endorsements. I have Mike Lindell. I've got Abby Johnson from the movie Unplanned. Father Frank Pavone. We've got another big announcement for an endorsement coming up this week. Not President Trump yet, but we're getting closer. And so we're excited about all the endorsements that are out there. I just had Montmorency County in Michigan endorse me, and it's called Mira Michigan Republican Assembly has endorsed me. And so we're really getting a lot of traction. Latinos United for America and Veterans in Defense of Liberty have just endorsed me as well. So we're getting a lot of traction. But I'm also on social media. I'm on Truth. I'm on everything.
Awesome. Wonderful. Good. I'm gonna follow you on all of those, not in like a creepy way, but in support. I always feel funny when I say I'm gonna follow you. It sounds really weird, right? Oh, guys, this has been Ralph Rebant. He's running for governor of Michigan, and go check out his website and see what he's all about. Ralph, thank you again so much for joining me today. I appreciate it, and I really enjoyed our conversation very, very much.
I did as well, Elsa, and I really appreciate getting to meet you today in your program. And I will add you and your husband to my prayer list for law enforcement. It's special to have friends that are around the country, and knowing you're from Connecticut, I will put you on the list. And it's not just a grocery list; it's people that I really care about. So,
thank you so much. That means the world. It truly does. Thank you. All right, guys, this has been the Elsa Kurt Show. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Well, folks, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We've got a really good show this week. You're going to love it. You know, the World Health Organization is now starting to make noises about some kind of monkeypox emergency. And just days ago, the World Health Organization met to consider a series of amendments from the Biden administration that would hand a lot of our nation's sovereignty over to them. Think about that, folks. The same organization that broadcast China's lies about COVID-19 now gets our government's blessing to assume our sovereignty through the international health regulations that are part of the WHO treaty. And this week, as I said, the WHO has called for an emergency meeting about, you guessed it, monkeypox. Well, my guest this week says, quote, with the WHO power grab happening in the background, we also have the monkeypox situation. Monkeypox is a more serious disease than COVID, but normally would not spread very easily. Normally is the key word. The problem that given how well the gain of function work went with the COVID virus, someone apparently thought it'd be a good idea to do gain of function work on monkeypox, close quote. Wow, that should give us all cause for concern. So I've invited him on to spend some time discussing the issue and a lot more. Attorney Tom Renz is the lead attorney in several major cases brought in Ohio, New Mexico, Maine, and nationally against the CDC, the DHHS, Biden and Fauci regarding forced mandates, big tech censorship, the lockdowns, hospital murders, mass mandates, business closures, false PCR data, fraudulent death numbers, and a lot more. Mr. Renz also works with and represents America's frontline doctors and Make Americans Free Again. Tom, man, welcome to the Rob Maness Show, sir. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time.
I'm honored to be here, Colonel, and I appreciate the service that you did to our country.
Well, thank you. And before we get started, Tom, I want to thank you for the service that you are doing for not only the country, but I think for the entire population that yearns to be free. Because what we've seen the last 2 years really is a pulling off of the blindfold of the free people of the world to see what their governments really are capable of and what they really do behind the scenes, as they're saying, oh, we're a government of the people and by the people. So we really appreciate what you're doing, helping shine the spotlight on that and get some accountability, really, because we need some. We need some accountability, man. Well, hey, okay. You're an attorney. Obviously, you're involved in a lot of these cases and everything. So my first question really is not necessarily about monkeypox yet, but the WHO treaty, these amendments that the Biden administration put together, basically, if I read it correctly, says that this Tedros guy of the WHO can declare a public health emergency inside the United States at his will. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what Biden's pushing for, is unilateral action from the exterior. Now, why would you do that, right? And I apologize for having to shift here.
That's okay.
I'm traveling, and so my normal studio is not available. So, you know, the idea here is really about shifting blame and dodging accountability. So what Biden has done, and what all the politicians have done, and frankly what the courts have done, is said, well, we've got to defer to the experts. You know, the CDC, they're the experts. The WHO, they're the experts. We've got to defer to the experts. And one of the most frustrating aspects has been when we've gone to the courts have a habit of deferring to the experts. And you say to the courts, well, the experts, you know, they're wrong. And they say, well, no, it's the experts. We just don't understand. Well, what happens when the experts are liars? What happens when they're crooks? You know, that's precisely where we are, right? Mm-hmm. We're in a situation where we've got a bunch of liars and crooks. And essentially, this guy is trying to give them the authority to do more. Now, here's the problem. Let's say it was to be successful. Well, what he's going to do is you're going to have the WHO declare an emergency over everything, let's say monkeypox.
Right.
They're going to say, well, we need all of your data, all your information. They'll get all the DNA and medical records that we have in the U.S. because remember, we have Obamacare that centralized all our medical records and gave them to the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be able to get all the information on every American citizen out there under the guise of a public health emergency. Then, they're going to say, well, we got to do this, we got to do that. And Biden's just going to say, well, I'm not an expert, but I'm going to use my presidential power because remember, in international relations, under the Constitution, the president's got a lot of authority.
Right.
So he can then say, well, listen, the WHO, these guys, they're the experts. And, I'm going to leverage my constitutional authority to follow what they're saying because I think that's best for the American people. So you then set up a power struggle between the interests of the American people and the interests of, whoever's paying the who off at the time.
Right.
And the problem with it is when you have a corrupt leader like Biden or like Obama was, they'll just give that authority, at will. And what does that do to the American people then?
Well, I mean, it removes our ability to make our own decisions about whether we actually have a public health emergency and things like that, Tom. But wait a second. Don't we have the Constitution of the United States that has this requirement that the United States Senate approves all treaties by a 2/3 majority?
Yeah, we do. And you got to understand that for a treaty to exist, then it does have, for it to be ratified, it does take that. But you can do all sorts of things using presidential diplomacy powers that don't necessarily necessitate him having it ratified. So we already have we've already ratified that, we're a part of some of these organizations and part of this and a part of that. That's already ratified. And they're going to do an end run, remember? So this is what they've been doing with, and they're doing it in a lot of other places. This actually even tied in with the election stuff and some of these other things. What they'll do is they'll do an end run around the law. The law says that you can't do this. They say, well, then it's an executive agreement, and by the way, we're already part of the WHO anyways through the UN treaties and this and that and other. And, so we're going to listen to them. And then you've got another whole series of court cases and issues like that. You don't know how they're going to come out, and they're going to take years to get done. Meanwhile, the American public suffers.
Wow. You would think that when the Senate ratifies a treaty, they'd have a clause in that ratification resolution that says, hey, if there is an extensive change like the giving away of American sovereignty, in any type of attempt at an executive action, because I understand, being an executive in the government myself, you have to have room to set up processes, procedures, and rules of engagement, so to speak, as the executive, because you can't be going back to Congress every time you do that. But gee, at this level of change, you would think it would trigger something like a reevaluation by the Senate, but I guess it doesn't, huh?
Well, you would think so. And I would argue that this is, that something like this would alter the form of the treaty to such an extent that it wouldn't be, but you got to understand these guys. Well, I guess, Rob, the way that I would say that would explain this would be, 3 years ago, if I said to you, I was going to require you to wear a mask to get on an airplane. You would have said, there's no way, that's unconstitutional. It's ridiculous. You're nuts. If 3 years ago I would have said, we're going to try and mandate an experimental unapproved gene therapy on the entire working population of the United States, you would have said, you're nuts.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of constitutional prohibitions against what's happened. And I think even better, how about this one? Hey, we're going to tell everybody in the country that they're under house arrest for 14 days to flatten an imaginary curve.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. We were locked in our houses, and it was essentially house arrest for 14 days. There was no due process. There was no evidence that there was a need to be in the house for 14 days. There was no anything.
That's right.
But we did it. So you got to understand that, yes, I can give you all sorts of arguments for why what he's trying to do is illegal and that it shouldn't work, but they don't respect the law. They don't care.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do is to wake our courts up, because the courts have been way too complacent about this. I mean, can you imagine? Think about this. We started a revolution, and kind of the triggering event for that revolution was a tea tax.
Yeah.
You know, the tea tax leads to the Boston Party, Tea Party leads to the revolution. Yeah, it was the final straw, right?
Right.
I mean, these are guys who are doing that. Can you imagine telling them, you know what, we got this experimental drug, it's going to alter your genes, and, you know, we don't know what it's going to do really. We're going to force the public to do it for a disease that has, roughly the same case fatality rate as a yearly flu. Yeah, but that's it. We're going to do that. By the way, we're going to also spend $4 trillion plus that we don't have on it, because, you know, it just seems like this seems like a good way to go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our founding fathers would have rolled over in their grave. This is
they are.
insanity.
They are. They're spinning big time. Yeah, it is absolute insanity. So, but did we get a little bit of good news? Because I know I'm part of another group that we got wind of the WHO amendments, and we started our own push to get the public to make comments and everything. And we heard that those amendments at least have been delayed, if not dropped.
They've been tabled. They've been tabled.
Okay.
Do you want to know what's amazing about it? The core resistance. I mean, there's a lot of resistance here in the States, but the core resistance came from our brothers and sisters in Africa. You know, they know what colonialism looks like. They know what it means to be enslaved and to be abused and to have your resources raped. And, you know, so they recognized exactly what this is. A bunch of jerks over in Europe and a few of them from the US that were colonialists and wanted to take over the universe. And so they said, hell no. And so it ended up getting tabled. Even the British said no to this. I mean, the Brits.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless them, but, you know, they haven't exactly lately.
They haven't been friends of American freedom very often, that's for sure. Well, that's good news then, but we've got to stay on top of that, everybody. I'll just tell you, for my audience out there, we've got to stay on top of that. When you hear about the WHO and any amendments, you need to get into the public square and start contacting them and all of your legislators. Because,
well, you should still be contacting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, they're tabled. They're not gone.
Yeah.
You know, this is coming back.
Exactly.
You know, my prediction is this. So you got a summer of violence coming up because everybody's talking about, you know, they've got their paid rioters that are going to come out on the Roe v. Wade stuff, and they've said that they want to burn cities and cause trouble.
Yeah.
And then this fall we'll come back with something else. Now, did you hear? I don't know if you heard. This is new this week. Apparently, we've done a pretty good job of telling the truth about the monkeypox. So the WHO decided to rebrand it. They said that monkeypox are racist, so we got to call it something else.
No, I hadn't heard that. What are they calling
this is new. They, well, I don't know yet, but they decided that monkeypox is racist, and so we're not going to call it monkeypox anymore. We're going to call it something new, and whatever that is will be, something less racist than monkeypox, because I don't know. To me, I'm going to be honest with you. To me, if you're such a bigot that the word monkeypox makes you think of something racial, you got some problems.
It's pretty typical. I mean, it's pretty typical. The leftists, they see racism everywhere because they are racist. That's my opinion. I've never seen anything like it. And my parents grew up in Jim Crow South. You know, I mean, my dad was in the military, so my brothers and I didn't see a lot of that, but we were around family members on occasion, at least once or twice a year, back there in Western Tennessee, back in those days. And the racists in those days used to say the same things as the racists today. You know, it's just absolutely through the looking glass, I think, sometimes. But monkeypox, Tom, you've been writing a lot about it. The basic question is, I know what it is. I've been around the world. I lived in Africa when I was a kid, so I understand what it is. But break it down for the folks out there. What is this? I mean, I'm hearing it's a lot like chicken pox or less.
Yeah. So, it's from a different, I guess, family, I guess, from what the doctors are telling me. But the thing about it is that it looks like blisters. It looks like these lesions, these little, bumps that you get on your skin. And what I think is happening is these guys are, well, there was a headline out of Canada that Reuters fact checked it and said it was false, but Reuters fact check doesn't actually mean anything to me. So I don't know whether it's accurate or not. But, herpes, which will often manifest as shingles, is a side effect from these jabs. And, that headline and everything else has claimed that, a lot of these supposed monkeypox cases are actually shingles, side effects from the jabs. Now, I don't know if that's correct or not. I don't have evidence to back that up. That was the claim from a headline. Like I said, Reuters did fact check it, but I don't believe anything Reuters says. And their fact check was pretty weak. So I guess the bottom line is that, this monkeypox thing we've known about monkeypox since the 50s. Right. Nobody's cared about monkeypox since the 50s. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to care about monkeypox. And you got to ask yourself why? What's changed? Well, there's only two things that have changed. One is that everybody's got the jabs. Now, we do know Peter McCullough wrote an awesome paper on the impacts that the jabs have on your immune system. And one of those impacts is that it attacks a certain part of your immune system and weakens it in a way that may make you more susceptible to monkeypox. So that is a possibility. So maybe they are concerned about it spreading more rapidly or more aggressive, manifesting in a worse way because of that. The other thing that might happen is it could be that, we know they've done gain of function work on monkeypox. I know because I've got the paper on it.
How do we know that, though? What's your source on that?
I've got the published paper.
Okay.
I've got the published paper from it. It's pretty rock solid. I mean, they've been toying with this. Now, doing gain of function research does not mean that it's free and running around in the wild, but it means that they did it. That said, they did the gain of function on SARS-CoV-2, and well, that did get out. So, how sure are we that something else didn't get out? So I think we'd have to, the two things that we really got to look at, first of all, is the dominant strain that's out there, is that still a natural strain, or is it something that they toyed with? And second of all, what impact is there really from these jabs? Now, they're not going to tell the truth about either of those, but those are the only two things that have changed. Other than that, I don't know why anybody would care at all about monkeypox, because they don't spread easily. In its normal form, it's really not that dangerous, and it's just not something we should care about. Right. So you mentioned the jab, the vaccine. We've seen a lot of strange anecdotal stories, and there's been new studies come out and those kind of things. But all of a sudden you're getting people in their 20s and 30s that are getting, I call it a version of Bell's palsy. I think it's called Ramsay Hunt or something like that. The Ramsay Hunt comes from the shingles virus, which comes from chickenpox, from the way I understand it. And Justin Bieber came out with that. Went public with his problems with that this past week. His wife has suffered a blood clot. You have, in my own family, all of my brothers and I were vaxxed. My brothers, though, have done like the booster and all that stuff. And my wife and I said, no, we're not doing it. After we found out the medical stuff, we're like, no, we're not doing any more of this. Right. I had one that's was in he's 56 years old, had a heart attack,
had to have stents put in, never had a heart problem before in his life. Now it runs in our family on the male side, so you have that issue. But and then another brother that had a version of prostate cancer that was one of those, well, you're probably going to die with it, we'll just watch it version. Well, he gets the vaccine, then he gets COVID, and then 3 weeks later he goes for his PSA checkup for his prostate, and they've not just quadrupled but quintupled the numbers on it, and the doctor's saying, no, we're doing surgery on you in a week. We can't, you're not going to survive this if you don't. So we're hearing all kinds of anecdotal stories like that, and backed up by some data, you know, myocarditis issues in the young men, and blood clotting, and recently in the last few weeks, I've just started hearing about stillbirths that were, the data was like hidden or cloaked by Pfizer, I believe. I don't know if you've heard about that. So we've got all these issues. Maybe that is the reason why they're all freaked out over it, but why not tell the public? I don't get it.
Well, because we're still spending trillions of dollars on this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the greatest debacle in American history, and we're still spending more. And you know, the thing about it is that you got to follow the money. So why won't we tell the truth? Well, the reason we won't tell the truth is that the big money isn't in the COVID jab. The big money is in the gene therapy. That's where they want it to go. Mm-hmm. They're trying to integrate this gene therapy stuff into the flu vax and into all sorts of other things. And it's the gene therapy. I mean, there's been hundreds of billions of dollars invested worldwide on it. So that's where the money is. That's where they're going with it. And that's what they don't want to risk. And if you start talking about the failure, that's it. That's the failure. That's the real issue. So there's that, you know, but you had mentioned, you know, you gave a lot of anecdotal evidence, but we don't even need to look at anecdotal evidence. We just have admissions, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've made public, we got the Project Salus document back in October of 21. It might have been late September. It said, you know, 60% of new hospitalizations are in fully vaxxed and 71% of new cases are in fully vaxxed. We had, you know, the side effects list that came out in the FOIA dump. It was extensive. We knew what that was there. But before that came out, you know, we've been talking about the FDA document we had in from October or November of 2020, where they listed an entire page of very dangerous, severe side effects that they were watching for at the FDA, but that weren't listed on the informed consent sheet. So, you know, we don't, in terms of evidence, you know, if you want anecdotal, how about SADS, you know, sudden adult death syndrome, you know, that they're trying to do because all the.
Now, see, I thought that was a joke when I first heard about it until just the other day. That's not a joke, is it?
No, that's what they're doing to try and cover up for all the people dying in their 20s and 30s for no reason. I just saw a 17-year-old girl of some elected official, you know, died in her sleep. You know, perfectly healthy little girl, no reason, nobody knows. Well, she got the jab. That's why. I mean, it literally, but can kill many. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is an absolute disaster. We're creating the greatest public health crisis in history. We're experimenting on people with a drug that we don't know how it works, whether it works, or, you know, if it'll ever work. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the bottom line is that we're doing this all for nothing more than money and power. You know, it's a wealth transfer. It's devastated our economy, but it fits with Biden, you know, his war on America. You know, look what he's doing to gas prices, which, you know, I mean, Trump left office and we were exporting all sorts of fuel. We were refining all sorts of fuel. Everything was going great. And then Biden cuts all the pipeline stuff, all the drilling stuff, all the oil leases. He gets rid of all that. And then he says it's Putin's fault that we got high gas. You know, I mean, the guy's, you know, doing everything he can to shut down energy. He's doing everything he can. I mean, we got baby food formula because he shut down the only plant that really is a major manufacturer of a lot of these baby foods for an extensive period of time. I mean, we've got I mean, I don't know how many airplanes crash into food processing plants on a normal year, but we've had quite a few this year and an awful lot of fires in them. Yeah, I mean, there is just a nonstop attack on everything that it means to be American. Amendment and kids, let's not overlook those.
Right.
And so this just fits. It just fits. It fits the mold. It fits what you'd expect from a guy that clearly has sold out to our enemies, and is clearly supporting our enemies. Attacking our freedoms and our nation. And I mean, in any sane world, this guy would have been impeached and tried for treason.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's really scary, Tom, is that they got us to do the lockdowns and the initial vaccine under a Republican president that everybody had a lot of confidence in because he was supposedly an outsider. And I like President Trump's policies and everything. And I think that presented with the same facts, I would have, been recommended to do some things too. But now this guy has taken over. Oh my gosh. And it's just exploded into this vast attack on everything that we believe in America. And then he has the audacity to stand in front of the American people daily and lie about it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So I'm a dad and a husband, right? It's the two greatest gifts that I have in my life, for my wife and my boys.
Same here.
God blessed me in a big way. And, I look at what they're doing to these kids in school, the stuff they're trying to push.
Yeah.
I want anyone out there to try and tell me 5 years ago that if you told someone you were going to have a drag show for 5-year-olds, that they wouldn't say that person needed to be arrested immediately.
Absolutely.
I mean, I look at it as my boys. If someone did that stuff to my kids, I'd probably be in jail. Because and probably deserve it, because the guy that did it wouldn't be standing anymore. I'm an old school guy, right? I know I'm a lawyer, and I don't advocate breaking the law, but I'm going to be honest with you. You screw with my kids, I'm kicking your butt, and I'm a big ugly ogre, so I can do it.
Hey, I'm a grandfather too, in addition to being a dad and a husband, Tom. And I'm telling you, my little grandsons and my granddaughter, it's not going to happen. I'm going to march in there if I'm still alive when they're in grade school. And if I see that, I'm going to pull them out. Not the kids, the pedophiles and the drag queens and all that. And I'm not obviously not an advocate of breaking the law either. But at some point, normies have to stand up and put their foot down and say, look, enough's enough. We've got to stop this. How do we get at that part? How do we get at that part? Talking about the monkeypox, you mentioned in your last article, I think that big pharma has been paid in advance in a lot of countries for monkeypox vaccine, which I'm not surprised we have one, because we have the smallpox vaccine, the chickenpox vaccine now, and those kind of things. So they've been paid in advance recently?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting paid in advance on a daily basis. And I think just in the last week or two, we sent another big chunk of money off to them to buy a bunch more. And globally, they're being bought. We're actually, so one of the dirty secrets is, if you dig into our funding for all the foreign aid that we send out, and we're buying monkeypox for a lot of people, just like we're buying COVID for a lot of people. I mean, we bought, I think I just read something about the DOD. I don't know how many millions of doses of the COVID jab they bought for other countries. Why? I mean, our nation's falling apart. It's kind of like when we sent the $40 billion to Ukraine. We're buying jabs that are poisoning other nations. What? Because we've got extra money? So this money's, it's already been spent on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, we don't have any extra money. I'm on a board of advisors for a group called STARS. I think you've done some conversations with them, some work with them, and everything. And it's stopping racism and radicalism in the services. But these guys came out of the Air Force Academy as graduates, and you know, we have a lot of talks about the Defense Medical Epidemiology database, the DMED data, that the whistleblowers that went to Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin and did a public hearing with him about that data that was matching up, really, I think, the original data with this data dump that just came out. I think it was from Pfizer not too long ago. And military commanders, and I was one 3 times, are making decisions based on data that's been massaged now. And they're staying with the policy. Even today, they're staying with the vaccine policy, to the point where the Secretary of the Air Force has ordered the generals last year not to approve any religious exemptions. Yeah, now, that's a big deal for religious people, because it was made with aborted fetus body parts and those kinds of things, and that's a huge deal. It would be for me. I'm pro-life, and I would say no. But to make a decision like that before, why? You know, they're making a decision like that collectively with no due process. And as a former senior commander in the United States Air Force, I'm not only disappointed, I'm shocked that that's happening and actually was ordered and is being agreed to by some of the guys and gals, which were my peers, that are still in.
Yeah. Well, we're, I mean, listen, I am 100% in agreement on everything you said. And I'd back up what you said about it being, you know, a religious thing, because not only is it, you know, aborted fetal cells, but also it's a gene therapy. Pfizer and Moderna have admitted it's a gene therapy. So that debate is long since put to rest. Right. In fact, Moderna, in their SEC filings in 2019, talked about their mRNA technology as gene therapy. So this is long since. Do you know, I was made in God's image. I don't need some guy to screw it up. You know, there's a very religious aspect to that as well. But the thing about this is, so, you know, I always differentiate between things that I can show you the paperwork on and things that I, you know, can't quite prove yet. And I try to stay away from. That said, I'm going to share this with you, Rob. This program, this whole jab thing, evidence, it's not conclusive yet, but it's pretty strong evidence that you know, this is being pushed in no small part through the DoD and by a lot of the guys who are the brass that aren't out there working with the soldiers, right? So our soldiers are the best people in this country,
right?
But you know, I mean, you're retired colonel. You've been around there. You know as well as I do. There's a bunch of guys that have a lot of pull that don't really have a whole lot to do with the soldiers or the troops. They're away in the Pentagon. They're away here. They're away there, and they kind of, you know, do their thing. There is an immense amount of this coming from military brass that doesn't really have much to do with actually fighting wars or anything of the sort. Right. There's a very, very huge tie-in, and we've got some very strong evidence that we haven't made public yet, but stuff that's really tying this all together for me. You know, we thought all of this was being done through the Department of Health and Human Services, but an immense amount of this entire program has been done through the DoD. A lot of the contracts, the procurements, because the contracting and the procurement requirements and the reporting requirements are very loose for DoD because it's national security. Right. So what they did is some of these guys have been working on this, and they've been involved, very involved from the beginning, and they've been running a lot of this through DoD to get around that, to get around those legal requirements. That's why, you know, we just realized not that long ago that that's what was going on, and that was why we kept running into gaps in the paperwork. Why couldn't we find this? Well, you know, this has to be somewhere. Where's it at? Does Fauci have it? Well, no, it was actually at the DoD. So, you know, once we unraveled that, you know, we've been able to pull a lot of pieces together recently that we didn't know before. And, you know, the recognition that a lot of this has been through corrupt parts of our military. And I don't mean our soldiers. God bless them. I couldn't have more respect for my vets than I do, or my enlisted men. but you know, when you know our military's got a lot of aspects and a lot of things that it does that nobody knows about, and some of those things that nobody knows about are not real good. It doesn't appear.
Well, I will tell you that the base level, the installations, their commanders, they have a big role to play in pandemic response nationally and globally. Sometimes
Yep.
I was on watch when the last I think it was the 2009 flu thing hit, and I will tell you I was shocked at some of the things that were talked about in there. And I would go, because I was the decision maker in a bunch of these committee meetings, and I would go, no, we're not going to do that. That would not be the right way to go. But I could easily see where people that weren't as experienced or as well trained, and our folks are not well trained now. They're more focused on wokeness and stuff. And that's a fact. And CRT, critical race theory. And that's a fact. But I could see that if somebody that didn't understand what they needed to do and what the difference between a good decision and a bad decision based on recommendations from people that are public health people or civilians that don't understand the laws of the United States and and what the role of the military is, I could easily see that going south. And it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that machinery that would be above those commanders at the base level that was driving a lot of that potential decision making that I saw in that last flu thing under President Obama could go completely awry. And quite honestly, that's what it looks like to me. It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have the power to say that the DMED database has been bad for 5 years? No, here's the real data. Now think about this. I had 2 command positions. I've selected very carefully from out of thousands and thousands of Americans that were competing for those positions. Both of them had large medical facilities, military medical facilities in them. So I understand what it's like to be an executive supervising and providing oversight to a medical facility, especially a government one. And it just blows my mind that people would say the things that we're saying, and that DMED data that me as an operational commander would be needing to use to make sure my forces are protected. Okay, and that's what this is all about on the military side. The mandate on the military side has been changed. You know, that stuff's been rock solid for decades. Rock solid for decades.
Well, I mean, you know this, Colonel. I mean, it's all it does is take the data that you got and anonymize it and make it easier to search.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not it's not a magical system. It's not a complicated system even. All it does is anonymize it and make it searchable. So it's just taking the data. So unless they're manipulating the underlying data, it's not going to be wrong. I mean, there's no way for that to happen.
Yeah, there would have to be lines of code written and inserted for different types of reactions to change to make the data bad. So your point is very well taken. I mean, it would have to be something aggressively done to the software in the system to get it to do that for 5 years and nobody notices. Come on.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that the fact that they haven't been willing to address it at all or to offer any sort of an explanation. I mean, listen, that when I did that bit with Senator Johnson, that had legs. That went very far and wide. If they had a good explanation, they would have gave it. They didn't have anything. All they had is, well, maybe a glitch. Well, you know, listen, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. A glitch is, you know, we found 2 categories that were way off because, you know, I don't know, they were being entered. That's a glitch. Yeah. You know, everything being off by, you know, 300 or 1,000% or whatever it was. I mean, that's insanity. That's not a glitch. And you know what? If it was that screwed up, everybody who had anything to do with that, including the company who provides the DMED database, should have been fired. There should have been court-martials, but there wasn't anything. So, you know, that's the fact that there was nothing speaks for itself. The fact that Senator Johnson was beating on the drum on this, and they wouldn't even respond to him
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to know. Because, you know, if you got, you can say what you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see your actions, right? Your actions are the key. And that's what we saw right there.
So we've got all these actions. We see them. They know we see them. As Solzhenitsyn said, they know that we see them. They know we see them. And they know we know that they're doing the wrong thing. How do we unravel this to get back to some sense of ethical government with integrity at this point? I mean, we've come a long way down a really bad slide.
Well, I think that to answer that, let's go back to 2012. And even before that, 2008, when everybody said, oh, this is the most important election ever. We won't be able to undo it. And then 2012, same thing. 2016, same. So in 2016, you know, the Donald comes in. Mm-hmm. When the Donald came in, what the Donald did better than any president in history was shined a light on just how deep the swamp is. Mm-hmm. So, you know, here's the problem. Nobody likes saying this or thinking about it, but we've lost. Okay, we've lost. Mm-hmm. And we've lost a lot. Now, it doesn't mean we've lost the war, but we've lost some very, very significant battles. Yeah. You think about where we are compared to where our founding fathers wanted us. We've lost an immense amount. The freedoms we've just willingly given away. Terrifying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we've got to fight and earn them back, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when I started fighting COVID the day they told me I had to stay in the door. I actually started working on it before that. But the day they told me I couldn't leave my house, I went and went out to my gas guzzling truck and did all I could do to warm our climate by driving around with my windows open and no mask on and not caring a bit about this garbage. So I've been fighting this from the beginning. Yeah. And you know, I look at how it's progressed. Now, I'm a nobody from Ohio, right? I'm just some guy. I live in a little town. You know, before this, nobody had ever heard of me. And, you know, a few people have heard of me now because I've been fighting this pretty loud and pretty hard. But what I have done is because of that fight, as I've grown, as my ability to fight this has grown, I've watched. And what I've watched is America start to wake up. We've started to recognize that our freedoms are gone. And the bottom line is this. Until we recognize how bad the situation is, we can't fix it. That's why it was so important to censor you and all the other people with the courage to tell the truth. Yeah. They have to censor because they can't let people know. If people realize what's happening, it's not going to keep happening. You know, I mean, look at what a disaster it was for the homeschooling. All the parents found out when their kids were at home how bad the schools really are.
That's right.
You know, so there's always been for me three parts, and it's not a super secret strategy. I share my secret sauce here. Mm-hmm. It's legal, it's political, it's PR. We use the law, we use politics, and we use public relations to advance change. You know, I don't really do anything but freedom fight right now. That's all I do. That's my law. Yeah. That's my entire practice. And so what does that mean? Well, want to hire me to go write you a will or to sue someone because you got in a car wreck, well, I suppose, you'll have to get on a waiting list, but I could do that, right? Mm-hmm. But if you hire me and say, listen, our country's going to hell, we need to fix it, I'm probably first thing I'm going to do is probably tell you to keep your money. You're going to have to pay my lawyers, but generally I don't bill for my time on that. Thankfully, people have donated a lot, and they keep donating, and so I've been able to do a lot of this without billing people. But I'm looking at this as a comprehensive fight. We're fighting them in the courts, but I've got to speak publicly. I've got to get out there. I've got to fight. I've got to wake people up. I've got to get other people to fight because I'm just one guy.
That's right.
And no matter what I do in the courts, I'm one guy. We are strong as a people. Individually, none of us, and it's a big problem because a lot of people, they get fighting, they get a few things done, they start thinking they're special. Yeah. We're not special. God will give us, he'll elevate us if it's, worth doing. And if it's not, we're going to go back down. But it can't be about me. It's got to be about us. So we got to get the people involved. I've been working very hard on that. That's why you see my ugly mug. I'm a case study, a face for radio. I keep going out there because this is how we get people to fight. They've got to take a stand. They've got to say no. They've got to get involved, run for school board, volunteer in elections, volunteer to be a poll watcher, get involved with the party. God knows we need to retake the GOP.
Absolutely.
But get active. So how do we do this? Well, we all fight. We all fight. That's how we do this. And it seems like kind of a general answer, but that's it, right? I mean, I'm going to keep suing everybody, and I'm going to get some wins, and I'm going to get some losses, and I'm going to keep going because I don't care. Yeah, we the people, though, have to do this collectively. If I do it by myself, it's meaningless.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tom.
If we stand together, we get it.
You're exactly right. I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to spend some time with you and meet you because, attorneys that are able to put it out there like you are not very large numbers of them. There are not large numbers of them today.
Thank you.
I don't know what's driving it, but you are greatly appreciated here, and all of those like you are greatly appreciated because the legal piece of it, we have to have good, solid attorneys that will do it with us. I'm just a regular citizen. I happen to get lucky and make colonel in the Air Force and get to be a commander and all that. But, I come from military service of enlisted people and privates all the way back to the American Revolution. And nobody knows their names.
Awesome.
And I don't want people to know our names. I just want them to be able to hear the messages that's coming out about the truth and the facts so that they know. And I think you're right. I mean, we've lost some major battles, and we're on the cusp of losing the war. But people are waking up. They are waking up.
It's late, but it's coming.
Yeah, and that's okay. It happens a lot in America. It takes a while to get us all moving in the direction that we need, that we all know we need to go, because that's the way we are. We've always been that way, even in the beginning of the American Revolution. Up until the day before the Declaration of Independence, I mean, people like Benjamin Franklin were still talking about, hey, we got to try if we could get the Brits to do the right thing. I mean, it was a hard thing.
Nobody wants to fight, but sometimes you don't have a choice.
Exactly. And it's my hope that we will have enough fighters in the nonviolence version like you and people like me that will get Americans woken up completely, and they'll put an end to this stuff without that kind of fight.
I'm praying.
I'm praying too, brother. I'm praying too. So you mentioned donations. How do folks go and donate? I've had your website, rens-law.com, up the whole time of this show. Is that where the donation button is?
Yeah. So if you go to rens-law.com, first of all, I use that to communicate. So I got an immense amount of information up there. There's a lot of stuff. If you spend some time, you'll find stuff going back to the beginning of this fight. There's links on there where, there's a link to our Give, Send, Go where you can donate. There's also a link to our Truth Social. We're doing Truth Social as well. And I see you guys got my GETTR and my Twitter up there. My Twitter, I keep waiting for them to throw me off of there because, I don't really care what I say, and I don't care if they do. But I mean, I might sue them if they do. But there's that. But they haven't thrown me off. They just make it so no one ever sees what I do, which is fine because I don't really like Twitter. But I love Truth Social. The people, I got some amazing people following me on there. They're very active, and they talk a lot, and I love that. I mean, I actually, it's really a neat thing that people. I mean, I keep trying to figure out how to get my wife to care about what I say. So it's crazy to me that got all these people that want to hear what I say.
You and me are birds of a feather in that way. But and your Truth Social handle, folks, his Truth Social handle is the same as his GETTR handle. That's why I put GETTR up there. I found out too late.
Yeah, it's the same as GETTR.
The artwork about truth, and I'm on Truth Social too. Same handle at Rob Maness, folks. I'm just building my audience over there. So if you want to follow me, I'd appreciate it. And you can rest assured of one thing: when I put something on there, it goes out. People see it. I know people see it. You don't know that on Twitter.
Yep.
And I think on GETTR, it's still pretty good. As far as I can tell, it's about the same as Truth Social, but you just never know what's going to happen these days. Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining us and continue letting us help you get your continued fight to get the truth and the facts out to the American people. We certainly appreciate your service in that regard. And is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, listen, I've got so much support from so many people. And if you're going to send anything, send a prayer first. But just thank you. Thank you. And brother, fight on.
Roger that. Fight on. We will. Thank you very much, Tom. And have a great day and a great life, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Well, folks, that was Attorney Tom Renz. He is a warrior like no other. I heard about him through several other organizations, and I was very fortunate to get him on the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Go help him out. And he does have a great website. It's got a lot of great information on it. I've spent some time researching it this week. And remember, the bottom line is pray for the country, but go act, especially at the local level, to take back your school boards, take back your city council, your county councils, your county presidencies, your city mayors. Take them back, because these leftists that are out there, they're not true Americans, and they know that their position is tenuous if they have the power, because they know we're waking up. So get out there, take them back. Oh, and go volunteer as a poll watcher for the GOP and join the precinct committee for your local GOP and Republican Party organization, and take that back too. Until next week, I'm Rob Maness.